Welcome to How It Works Deep Dive, where we take a deeper dive into a specific feature of a product previously demonstrated in our How It Works series. In a previous episode of How It Works, we got a demo of Hercules AI and its AI-powered bill review. Today, we're going to look more closely at the company's newly released Rule Library. And here to tell us all about it is Mariam Hambarchyan, Director of Product Management. Mariam, welcome.
Thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure to be on.
Well, let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it. Just tell us about the Rules Library.
Let's kick it off. Let's begin with the problem first, right? Law firms today are under an immense amount of pressure to enforce compliance across hundreds, if not thousands, of outside counsel guidelines. These guidelines are constantly changing, additional ones are being introduced, and they're getting longer and longer, to be quite honest. And the goal is to do all of this without slowing down the billing cycle or overloading partners who are merely unable to hold this entire wealth of rules and information in their minds, especially when they're often conflicting. We'll begin our journey in the guideline portion of the rule library. So, the Hercules AI billing compliance platform features a robust library to address this costly issue. It consists of an AI engine that leverages an assembly of large language models for truly end-to-end compliance that improves the law firm realization rates in the entire billing cycle. As we dive into the guideline library, I'd like to point out how guidelines are loaded into the system. Hercules offers batch upload of guidelines that are OCG as well as internal. And we also have for flexible options if these guidelines are stored in the DMS or in the SharePoint site. So there's multiple ways of getting the information in here. Once the information is in here, we also have the ability to map these guidelines to either the entire firm, the payer, the client, or matter. In this case, we'll go ahead and map it to one of our clients. And now this Bank of America guideline is going to be enforced on this corporate client right here. So as this initial setup is happening, what's really important is all of these rules are being extracted. It's important to continue to investigate what it means to go beyond outside counsel guideline enforcement and also enforce internal guidelines. What do I mean by internal guidelines? To be quite honest, firms have very different perspectives on this, and they can see a multitude of different types of documents being ingested. We use the guideline word because it's very familiar to OCGs, but think of them as rule sets. Sometimes they're written in Excel and converted to PDF and ingested into Hercules. Other times, they could just be in an email passed from an attorney to a billing team member saying, here how I like my narratives to be written. Here are the types of edits I'm doing month after month, and I wish AI were there to automate and improve that. The other type of internal guidelines you might see are firm-wide standards. These are the rules by which the entire timekeeping body of the firm should adhere to follow punctuation rules, whether we use past tense or present tense, and so on. When it comes to common practice, this is where Hercules also shines, because essentially what we've done, Bob, is developed custom models for the most pressing compliance issues firms have in terms of the deduction categories they tend to see in their e-billing solutions. These are vague narrative, excessive time, and so on. And in each of these rules is an entire AI model that is proprietary and has been trained to catch these issues. These models evolve and improve over time, but they're robust. They don't need further training. They actually work in your environment as soon as the product is deployed, and you have the ability to decide where to enforce them or entirely turn them off, right? It's all very flexible. The additional type of rule we'll get into, and I'll demonstrate to you in a minute, is the custom rule. That could be any ad hoc rules that the billing team feels need to be created. We've even seen them created such as, here's the name of the approver, and for this matter, every time prior approval is needed, AI can just directly insert the name of that approver. You can go that niche and create a really custom rule that automates the workflow for timekeepers.
Just a real quick question. What's the difference between
Sure.
internal guidelines and custom rules? I mean, internal guidelines are a set document that's already in place, and custom rules are created more on an ad hoc basis.
Yes. the method of getting it into the library is the difference, truly, because internal guidelines are a set of custom rules, but they're read and extracted from some document, whereas custom rules are manually created. So we can go ahead and create that custom rule. And I have all of these different types of categories to select from. I can just begin typing and select a category. Essentially, all of the categories you're seeing here are all based on a billing ontology we've developed, and our models have learned from this. So we're not asking people to classify rules extracted from AI processes manually. AI understands legal billing in our context and has been fine-tuned and trained to label it as such. But let's create an easy internal rule, and then we'll see it enforced shortly. So we'll call it a specific internal guideline rule and say abbreviation. In this case, let's get rid of that abhorred RE. So change the abbreviation. I'll make the rule more meaningful, change the abbreviation of RE to regarding in all narratives. And we'll go ahead and map it to a client. Let's search for one that I know will be really easy. Let's go ahead and go for it. I've planted some violations there. So we'll see this rule enforced in a minute. So let's actually talk about what it means to be a billing team member who we lovingly call the guardians of the rule library, and have complete control and flexibility into the workflow of managing rules. One of the most important questions we get when we first begin working with billing teams is, I want to be able to make exceptions at a matter level. And I'll go in this client and I'll see I have two different matters. Maybe for this one, drafting can stay. It doesn't have to be replaced with continued drafting, or maybe block billing is okay. I can make these kinds of exceptions without influencing the rest of that client, because now all of these are what we call partially on, because they're enabled at some level, but not at other levels, right? This exception handling is really critical to how billing teams work. They can do all of this and also have the ability to revise any rules and go much deeper. So let's take a look at one of our rules here. What AI has done is going to scroll through this document, show the exact citation. It has given the classification of the rule, which I can modify. In this case, this is correct. It's addressing billing matters, and this is a non-billable task, right? We all know that. Everything looks great here. In certain cases, AI is going to give you a flag that a rule needs review. It needs your attention. And we'll go ahead and scroll through a few of these and pick one to discuss. So attending deposition. Let's go ahead and take a look on this Liberty one. So deposition attendance requires prior approval, and without prior approval, it's not going to be paid. I can add additional context, such as mention the name of the approver as well as the date of the approval. I can augment this rule. I can change it. This is a great category, but let's say we didn't want deposition. This was something else. I can easily modify this different classifications. I can see exactly where it's being mapped, and I can go ahead and choose to enforce it. So I have the complete control over any of the rules, be it the ones that need review, as well as the ones that are already extracted and ready to go.
What was it about that rule that flagged it as needing review? Was it that in some way the AI wasn't confident that it was had properly extracted the substance of the rule?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So AI has this concept of a judge in our system, and the judge tries to look at all of the parameters, what it has used as a classification means, how it has summarized the rule, any additional context and attributes around it. And if it senses a degree of uncertainty, it's going to be cautious and is going to require this human in the loop element. We always talk about this, that the investment you do in curating the rule library is directly seen in the quality of the enforcement. I've seen a billing team, for example, create a custom rule that said the word meeting should be replaced with the word confer. Seems like a really easy rule. And then they realized that all of these meetings were being changed to confer even in the middle of a narrative, and it was really ruining grammar. So all they had to do was revise the rule to say only if it's at the beginning of a narrative, right? So you will get situations where either the AI is uncertain or you created a rule, but it needs to be essentially reprompted. And we talk about communicating clearly with AI. So if I'm going to write a rule, or if the AI summary is not clear enough, I have the flexibility to add it. Another tidbit of fun fact, this one is easy because the summary is really similar, but sometimes you'll see OCDs with really complex, like this one, it's a huge text. What AI has done is really efficiently summarized it so that it's much easier than working with direct citations. And the beauty is that we don't just extract and stop there and ask the billing team to manually create if-then logic that you subsequently have to decide, is it a warning or is it an error? There's none of that in the Hercules billing compliance platform, because AI can summarize for you, it can name the rule, it can fill out all the attributes. And if you are okay with this, like this one's perfect, all I have to do is click enforce and I don't have to go deeper into it. When I'm finished, I just publish my changes. And this is telling me that if there's current stuff in review, it will prompt the user for re-verification, as an AI is going to run another compliance check. And if stuff hasn't been reviewed yet, it's going to automatically start applying these new rules, the changes that you and I just made in the library. Ready to see it in action? So let's go ahead and look at Apex. As I mentioned, it's asking to re-verify. We'll give it a second to re-verify. And the rule we wanted to check here was whether all of the REs will be flagged and converted to regarding. So before there was one issue, now after this new rule, we see 4 issues. And I'll actually switch the tab to the all so you can see the difference here. So in this case, someone actually spelled out regarding, and AI accurately realized it's already perfectly fine. I'm not going to flag anything. But here I have RE that is automatically changed to regarding. I can see that rule you and I created. It tells me what needs to change. This is pretty straightforward. And with one click, I can go ahead and enforce it. Here's another one that's more complex, right? This is about court appearances. We can go ahead and check the rule. It will take us to the library. We can wait for the source to load, and I can go ahead and see exactly the citation in the rule before going ahead and either dismissing it or applying the changes. And here, the rest of our RE, you can also select a bunch of things and dismiss the violations. So a lot of flexibility to work with AI as a coach that's helping you understand what's wrong and fixing these issues.
Fantastic. It looks great.
Awesome. I'll summarize, Bob, before we hop
Okay.
off,
Okay.
that a well-curated rule library allows law firms to be able to easily enforce. We've seen tens of thousands of rules, right? Libraries that contain about 150, 200 outside counsel guidelines could already get you in the high thousands of rules. So one of the really important aspects, it's not limiting firms by clunky systems, because nobody's going to create tens of thousands of rules manually with errors and warnings, and timekeepers are not going to bother with errors and warnings. They want helpful suggestions like the ones we saw here. So when AI serves as a coach for timekeepers, and most of the bulk of the work of the rule library is handled by AI, with the billing team merely being the guardians of that library, deciding where to control things, where to turn things off, how to modify things. It really truly ends up making the big difference between just compliance that you call compliance by its name versus end-to-end execution of billing compliance to reduce revenue leakage, to improve time to bill and collect, and fundamentally to unburden partners to focus on higher quality and higher value work.
Great. Well, for those of you watching this video, just a reminder that we've done a deep dive here into the rule library. We have another How It Works video up also with Miriam, walking us through many of the features of Hercules AI's platform. So be sure to watch that as well. Miriam, thanks so much for walking us through this today. I really appreciated it.
It's been a delight. Thank you, Bob.
And you can find all of these at the LawNext Legal Tech Directory, directory.lawnext.com, under the Resources tab. We're also on YouTube. Just search for How It Works there. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for watching.